Now, to some very worrying words from the government's Counter-Extremism Commissioner. Robin Simcox has said that the pro-Palestinian protests are making London a no-go zone for Jewish people. And this is the head of yet another huge protest in the area tomorrow. And he urges the government to take bold action in tackling extremism. But the government faces mounting pressure to ensure London remains inclusive and safe for all communities. Well, of course it does, apart from the Jewish community. And to discuss that now, I'm joined in the studio in Westminster by G News presenter Josh Howie. Josh, welcome to the studio, although we always seem to be together under these unfortunate circumstances. They've finally woken up. The Home Office have taken the position that these marchers are turning parts of London into no-go zones. We've been saying that on this channel for weeks. I know you've been saying that for a long time. Lee Anderson said it. Suella Braverman said it. They got the boot. Now they're agreeing. But in terms of your experience as a Jewish person, do you agree with this?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's incredible it's taken so long for people to catch up with it. But, I mean, the language, the people on the protest, they call it peace marches, right? And we would classify it as a hate march. Well, for the people who are calling it a peace march, who see these placards with not just kind of like anti-Israel sentiment, like outright anti-Semitism, like saying Jews run the world, or people like calling for jihad, like people having flags of actual terrorist organisations that the police then pretend aren't. This stuff is hateful stuff. And the thing that I would say to those people is, well, who of you is actually asking for peace? Because you don't see people crying for peace. No, they're going from the river to the sea. They're calling for the genocide of Jews. They're calling for intifada, which for Israelis is blown up buses and cafes. So where are the actual cries for peace, number one? And number two is the people who sort of go on and say, well, let's get rid of Hamas, or Hamas is a terrorist organisation. Someone went up 2 weeks ago. That person had a thing saying Hamas are terrorists. That person was chased by the peace activists, and the police had to protect for their own person and take that person away.
It is fair to say, Josh, you get bad eggs on every type of protest. The vast majority of people on those protests would say they are sticking up for what they believe to be 30,000 people who've been killed in this conflict, and they're not all crying for jihad. So it's important to point out not everybody.
Yeah, but you know what? The same people who are sort of the far left cranks who are on those marches would also say, oh, they would condemn anybody who, what's that saying? If there's 9 people having a dinner party and one of them's a Nazi, then it's a Nazi dinner party. That's like that phrasing from them. So who of them are actually calling out these placards? Who of them are actually calling out these hateful genocidal cries? And none of them, it's the hypocrisy. I'm from the left, but the hypocrisy of people who would go, before when language changes, that's normal, right? And people go, oh, there's a certain word now that some people are uncomfortable with. Oh, okay, I didn't realise that was an uncomfortable word. I'll change my language. That's fine. But in this case, they're like, no, this is what we're going to chant. We're going to chant from the river to the sea, even though it comes from an Arabic saying that it's literally the genocide of Jews. They don't care about that. And worse than that now is we're actually seeing another development, which I've seen this week, where people are actually on the left going, wait, okay, it is racist, but hey, what's happening in Gaza? What happened to, microaggressions and these things that racism has to be dealt with? It's like, no, suddenly because what's happening in Gaza, racism in London is bad. That's what they're saying.
I've spoken to people who've organised these marches, and they say, well, why are Jewish people upset? The marches take place on a Saturday. Jewish people aren't about. You're busy obeying your faith. What do you say to that?
Well, I'd say, first of all, what racism is okay even if there's no one there of that particular ethnicity. That's a ridiculous statement. And the second thing I say is my synagogue is in town. I go in with my son, who is he's learning for his bar mitzvah, so I have to take him in every week, and it's very uncomfortable. Now, a few weeks ago, there was footage literally outside of our synagogue of about 4 police vans, about 20 police barricading our synagogue, protecting them from the march. Who are they protecting them from? They're protecting them from elements of the marchers. And I'm glad that I didn't have to take my son in that day, because I don't want to have to explain to him. Already he has security at school. We do have security at the synagogue. But to that level, go, mate, this is how much some people hate us, that we need 20 police people protecting us so we can go in safety to our synagogue, to our place of prayer. And being on the tube and being surrounded by I've been on the tube in these instances when people are gathering for these marches. It's a very uncomfortable position. You are afraid if someone's going to see your Star of David. Why should I have to put my Star of David away? Why should I not be able to wear my yarmulke if it's a Saturday? Why are there more religious Jews who are feeling like they're unable to go into town? The point is, it's not okay for anybody, let alone Jewish people.
So Rob Simcox, the Home Office's independent advisor on extremism, is saying, don't let extremists hijack your marchers to the march organisers. And he's saying this is not okay. Do you have any faith in that?
No, I don't, because they've been emboldened. They've been emboldened now from weeks. I read it online. Someone said, on the day after October 7th, when the blood was still drying, people were out, Islamists were out on our streets, marching, setting off flares. They should have been immediately shut down, and they weren't. And ever since then, it's got greater and greater, and they have felt, like I said, more emboldened. And where are the people on the left? Where are the people in those marches? I haven't seen one person in those marches confronting an anti-Semitic placard, confronting someone chanting for the death of Jews. That never happens. And again, it's hypocrisy.
Well, I did. I'm not a Jewish person, but I went to Parliament Square and I pointed that from the river to the sea Big Ben projector out to the police and said, there it is, what are you going to do? They weren't interested in doing anything about it. There was a guy with a placard that was offensive. They didn't do anything about that. There were guys in a full ski mask, balaclavas. I said, go and arrest them. You've got powers to do it. They didn't want to know, Josh. So there are people out there challenging them.
But I'm saying people of part of their community,
right.
part of that. Far left. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, I'm not saying that you're... But I'm just saying that they're not policing themselves.
Yes.
And then, okay, fine. Well, then the police are meant to police them. And as you say, I remember seeing... Do you remember, like, so when you said on Parliament with the projection, and then the police were like, well, no, it's all about context and whatnot. It's illegal to do that whatever the message was, it's illegal. You have a right to arrest these people. And the police haven't been doing that. Now, I understand there are reasons. I'm not saying that they're anti-Semitic, but they have to... there aren't the numbers necessarily. There aren't the resources there. And anybody steps out, like you've seen this footage of people pushing the police back, pushing people with their masks. Someone who pushes the police, you should be arrested. And they're not doing that.
And they probably would do if they were football fans or from the other side. Josh, Howie, thank you very much for joining us in the studio and giving us your impassioned view. Excellent stuff.